Information if it does. If the alarm does go, please leave the building by the nearest available exit. The assembly point is on the green in front of SK House. I would like to begin by welcoming all councillors and officers and the members of the press and public who are joining our meeting today. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that it is being recorded. Before we proceed any further, I would ask everybody present to join me in a minute's silence to pay our respects to former Councillor Yvonne Gibbons. Councillor Gibbons represented 2 Grantham wards over 3 terms between 1995 and 2007. Could I ask you to stand, please, for a minute's silence? Are there any councillors who wish to speak about Councillor Gibbons? Councillor, step down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vonnie, as you've just said, served 3 terms on SKDC. She was councillor for Earlsfield, the ward that I currently have the privilege to represent, between 1999 and 2007. She was still contesting district elections up until 2015, when she was in her 70s. I had the personal pleasure of serving on SKDC with her quite briefly between 2005 and 2007, following my election in a by-election, as did Councillor Shorrock. Vonnie was the Mayor of Grantham in 2006 when she ably represented our town. Away from local politics, she devoted much of her life to fostering, often taking on challenging older teenagers. That truly was the mark of a very good woman. Yvonne was plain speaking and an unashamed voice for working class interests and those in the ward she represented, one blighted by significant deprivation, which unfortunately it still is. She didn't suffer fools, and during Labour meetings would cut to the chase when others were pontificating about some ideological concept or other. She believed that action always trumped words. She will be missed by local Labour and the Grantham community in general. The passing of one more authentic voice from a previous generation. I will do my best to keep walking in her shoes in the Earlsfield ward that she was so dedicated to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sounds like an amazing lady. I never knew her, but thank you for those words. Would anyone else like to make any comments? Councillor Morgan.
Very much. I knew Yvonne as a Labour member and also a hospital activist. I'd just like to echo everything that has been said already by Councillor Steptoe, and keeping it very brief. She was a staunch and ongoing supporter of our hospital and the service it's provided in the background, even when she wasn't well, for many years. And I'd just like to say she will be very sorely missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll continue the meeting. Any councillor who wishes to speak should press the button on their microphone. A green light will appear and signal that you are in the queue. I'll call councillors to speak in the order in which they appear on the list. Please do not press your button again if the light is green. This will take you out of the queue. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and the Democratic Services team will ensure your microphone is live. They will also turn your microphone off when you have finished speaking. You will not be able to turn your microphone on or off. This will be done for you. The button on your microphone will only allow you to join or remove yourself from the list of councillors requesting to speak. Members are also reminded that when speaking, comments should be addressed through the chairman and members should speak clearly into their microphones. When the chair starts to speak, you are required to stop speaking and sit down. The length of time for speeches remains 5 minutes. You will be warned when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. Throughout this meeting, we will be voting by show of hands. The only occasions we will be using a roll call vote will be if a recorded vote is requested. The rules of debate are set out in the Constitution, but here is a brief reminder. A member may speak once on motions and once on each amendment that is put. Other than exercising a right of reply at the end of debate on a substantive motion or an amendment. The only time a member may speak a second time is to raise a point of order, point of information or point of personal explanation. Points of order may only relate to an alleged breach of the council procedure rules or the law. Any councillor who wishes to raise a point of order must indicate the rule or law or the way in which they consider it to have been broken. A point of information provides any councillor with the ability to intervene should they believe another councillor is providing the council with incorrect information, thereby saving the council from being misled and saving time. A point of personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech made by the councillor which may appear to have been misunderstood during the debate. Finally, I would like to remind all councillors to please ensure they check their pigeonholes in the members' lounge when in the building. All councillor posts will be put there, and there are a number of members who receive their committee papers in this way. Thank you for that. We will now begin to work our way through today's agenda. Agenda item 1, public open forum. Do we have any questions from the public, please, Democratic Service Manager?
Thank you, Chairman. No, we've had no one submit any questions in advance of the meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We now move on. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Again, can I ask the Democratic Service Manager to confirm any apologies that have been received for absence?
Thank you again, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillors Matt Bailey, Helen Crawford, Patsy Ellis, Ben Green, Jane Kingman, Nikki Manterfield, Chris Noon, Habib Rahman and Mark Whittington. Councillors Nick and Penny Robbins are running late, will join the meeting when they can. I don't know whether I've missed any apologies. I'll defer to the floor. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is anyone aware of any other apologies? Councillor Baxter?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I think it's reasonable to say that formally during the meeting that people are stuck on the A1 and are struggling. I know that some on my side are, and I dare say some of the other side are. So lateness is taken as read, I think.
Thank you, Councillor. Agenda item 3, disclosure. Councillor Gill, I apologise.
Yeah, just to echo those comments, I've received a couple of comments from Councillor Sue Sandel and Councillor Nick and Penny Robbins, and they're running late. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, disclosure of interests. Members are reminded that a disclosable pecuniary interest should be declared in those circumstances whereby there is a direct impact relating to those items listed on their register of interests. For example, this will include employment, trade or profession, as well as any contracts or licences held with the council. This also includes any land owned or rented in the district by a member or their partner. Members should also consider whether they have any other registrable interests or non-registrable interests that would need declaring at the meeting in accordance with the Council Code of Conduct. Once you have declared an interest, you should leave the meeting, not speak or vote on the debate. You are entitled to speak in the same capacity as a member of the public in respect of other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, but must leave the chamber immediately after doing so. If any member has any interest that they need to disclose, could you please indicate that now? Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Chair. The item which discusses the pensioners.
You need to stand up, Councillor Knowles. Beg your pardon.
The item that discusses the pensioners' winter allowance affects me personally, and I think at that stage I should leave the room because I would be voting on something that, if it were to change, it would benefit me in a financial way. So thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a ruling on this, hopefully, from Graham Watts, our monitoring officer. Graham?
Thank you, Chairman. The decision to leave the chamber and declare an interest is that of the councillor themselves. My advice is that actually there's no requirement to declare an interest in this particular item, whether you meet the criteria or not. So my advice is that members don't need to declare and can fully participate in the motion. But if any member wishes to leave the chamber on for their own reasons, that's entirely up to the individual councillor. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I hope that satisfies us all aged councillors, because I think at least 2/3 of us would necessarily need to leave the room on that debate. But, ho-hum, thank you. If during the debate it becomes clear that you have a disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest in an item, you can declare it at the relevant part of the meeting. We will now move on to the next agenda item, which is minutes of the previous meeting. This item is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of July 2024. Any corrections should be regarding the accuracy of the substance of the minutes, not typographical errors, which should have been raised with the Democratic Service team when the minutes were published. If you wish to make any further corrections to the minutes, please indicate now. Can I ask for a proposer for the 18th of July 2024 set of minutes? Councillor Morgan, and a seconder, Councillor Bishnow Singh. Could we go to the vote, please? All those in favour of accepting the minutes? Thank you. Anyone against? And any abstentions? Those are approved. Thank you. Agenda item 5, communications, including the chairman's announcements. You hopefully have had a list of my engagements. I've had a wonderful time in the last 6 weeks. I've done a lot, or been at a lot, of flag raisings, each one very significant in its own special way. Can I ask if there's any further announcements from the Leader of the Council, individual Cabinet members, or the Head of Paid Services? As a reminder, no debate on announcements. I think I've got Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. As Cabinet Member for Planning, I have a brief statement concerning unfortunate comments that were made at the July meeting of this Council, when a senior Conservative member of the opposition named me personally and asked me, and I quote, to reconsider my support for the Mallard Pass proposal. This was followed by the Conservative Leader of the Opposition expressing outrage at the approval of the Mallard Pass solar scheme by the incoming Labour government, which he complained was taken without government engagement with this council. Mr Chairman, given the fact that the council's role in the planning process is a quasi-legal matter, I ordinarily would have raised the point of order immediately to clarify matters, present the facts and protect the integrity of the council, as well as defending my personal reputation as Cabinet Member for Planning. But given I'd actually made my apologies for July's meeting, as I tested for COVID, I couldn't be here, so was unable to set the record straight contemporaneously. I'm advised to do so now. The truth is, as the record clearly shows, one of my first actions as Cabinet Member for Planning in the newly elected independent-led administration was actually to sign off an official impact assessment report which listed both the positives and negatives of the Mallard Pass application and highlighted issues around the loss of best and valued agricultural land. On behalf of the leader of this council, I also sanctioned an extraordinary single agenda item public meeting, a single agenda item public meeting of the Planning Committee to consider this council's position on the Mallard Pass application. As those who attended that meeting from all sides of the chamber will know, on the 15th of June 2023, which was ably chaired by Councillor David Bellamy, and as the webcast testifies, I personally addressed the Planning Committee on why this council was best advised to engage with the government's planning inspectorate by lodging a formal objection to the Mallard Pass application. So my clear evidence-based recommendation, which is on the record, was that this council should not support Mallard Pass, but to formally object. In conclusion, may I respectfully ask in futures that members trying to score cheap political points think about the potential damage to the integrity and reputation of this council, not to mention individuals. So please do your homework, put your brain in gear and stick to the facts. Thanks awfully.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I have two. Firstly, it's quite brief. I have drafted a letter to Rachel Reeves, the new Labour Chancellor of the Exchequer. I'm ready to send, we're ready to press go. I'm telling you this because it may save us some time later in the afternoon if we're talking about whether or not I should send a letter to Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I'm quite willing to do that about support for vulnerable pensioners and review of winter fuel payments. And as you hopefully all know, we are taking measures to ensure that people are sure of their eligibility for the winter fuel payment and for pension credits, which is the proposed gateway benefit. The second announcement is slightly longer, and that's about the solar panel installation at the Grantham Mears Leisure Centre. As you know, I want first of all to thank David Bellamy for raising his concerns about the ethical background of the panels that were suggested in the planning application, and also to Alicia Cairns, MP. I'm always ready to listen to suggestions along that line. I'm grateful to David and to Alicia for their intervention. I've spoken to Alicia Cairns. I had a meeting with her, I think last week, it might have been the back end of the week before, to talk about various things, including the sourcing of solar panels, particularly on this scheme. And thanks to David's letter and the meeting, I think we've, in consultation with officers and with the relevant Cabinet Member, Rhys Baker, we've come to a better outcome, I believe. As an overview, we have ongoing investment in leisure centres, much needed after many years of neglect and poor maintenance. We have won millions of public funding for investment into leisure centres, including 2 successful grant applications, one to the Sport England Swimming Pool Support Fund and secondly to the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme. The Sport England Fund included £445,000 for pool covers and PV panels. The pool covers have now been fitted and we are in the process of procuring and fitting the PV panels. We are then going on to other measures to improve the energy efficiency and then on-site energy generation at the Mears and also at the other sites, not the generation but the energy saving measures and the general enhancements of the buildings, including fixing the wave machines and fixing the roof, which happened over the summer at Bourne. The Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme was £3,587,000 for air source heat pump installation and also included solar panels to offset the change from gas to air source heat pump. The contract was awarded directly to Leisure Energy Limited. Leisure Energy subcontracted to Geo Green UK for the installation and procurement of the panels. So we do not have and have not had a direct relationship to the manufacturer or supplier of the panels. The original proposed panels from Geo Green were from Canadian Solar, and Councillor Bellamy and Alistair Cairns MP alerted us to the Canadian Solar's supply chain concerns. Officers, including with help and support and friendly help and support from the officers of the MP, we worked to find better, more ethical alternatives. This is very difficult because pretty much the whole of the PV market is muddled up with ethical concerns, particularly about the regions of China where the Uyghur people are facing a genocide and are being used as forced labour to produce many of our household items, including PV panels, the wafers for panels and everything else. And certainly no one on this panel, no one on this council, I'm sure, would support either genocide or the ongoing treatment of the Uyghur people. So, as a consequence of all this, we have negotiated with Geo Green and agreed not to choose Canadian Solar manufactured panels, but instead to choose JA Solar. JA Solar have a transparent supply chain as far as that is possible within the industry. Each panel has a QR code which enables the purchaser to trace, as far as is possible, the origin of the panels. JA Solar are a signatory to the UN Global Compact. They claim to have a fully traceable system and no forced labour. I do not think that that is possible for any of the world's manufacturers of solar panel, or I don't think it's possible for a fully traceable system. So the project remains on schedule. We expect completion of the panel installations by the end of March 2025. We will reduce our carbon footprint as a council, and Leisure SK is part of that, as part of the SK family. We are revitalising a neglected facility. We are becoming more sustainable, and that's my report to you. Basically, Councillor Bellamy and Alistair Cairns raised a reasonable concern, and we've listened to it and we've found a better solution. Thank you for your forbearance, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think I've got 4 updates. First off, battery collections. We are nearing 2 weeks of battery collections, a policy introduced by, I can't spot Councillor Green, that's actually really annoying. Councillor Green brought that motion right the way back in the mists of time, a fantastic cross-party implementation. It got cross-party scrutiny, and now we have collected 725 kilograms of batteries in just the first week. David Attenborough fans will be delighted to know that is approximately the weight of a water buffalo. In kilograms, yeah. And we are looking to continue collecting and diversifying those collections as space comes on stream. Full details have been shared on social media, so thank you, members, for sharing that in your own ways, whether that is online or whether that is at parish council meetings. There was only a few worrying little jitters that we had through, particularly around the one address that put 3 carrier bags of batteries out at once, totalling 2.7 kilos of batteries. Even down the back of my sofa, I don't think I've got that many. A1 maintenance. I have written to colleagues in neighbouring councils whose divisions are bisected by the A1. 3 executive members have responded from different councils, agreeing to partner with us in lobbying Highways England and the new Transport Secretary for increased maintenance funding. The councils share our concerns. They are very worried about the state of the A1 and agree that the status quo is unsustainable in the long term. long, dry letters, but I'm happy to share those correspondence with anybody who is interested. Number 3, slightly more positive note. I am delighted to announce Andrew, our new tree and woodland officer, is now in post. In a very competitive field, he has brought a huge amount of expertise, and he is an absolute steal for this council. Councils across the country are looking for people with this level of expertise. I had the pleasure of going to Boothby Wildlands with him last week. He was asking a lot of questions, and I didn't understand a word. So I put that as testament to the level of detail, expertise and knowledge that he has. He's already actively working within our action plan for the trees and woodlands strategy, and I am reliably informed that he knows trees other than Rowan. Number 4, Boothby Wildlands, that I've already mentioned. A fantastic new private site that has come on stream in our own backyard. One of 3 sites owned by Nattergal. It is at the forefront of a 617-hectare restoration project in South Kesteven. This was Grade 3 run-down agricultural land that was being used in some corners as paddocks, but was frankly not being farmed. There are plans to restore the West Glen River, plans to improve the ecological balance, reduce local flood risk. They've already taken huge steps to meet up with the residents of Bitchfield and talk about flood prevention measures that they can put on their land to help downstream, which I think is a wonderful sort of corporate responsibility we want to see from all of the businesses in SKDC, linking up with our communities. The reason I'm mentioning this to you, Council, is that on the 5th of September 2024, the Planning Committee unanimously approved a Section 106 agreement with Boothby Wildland Limited. This agreement will create and manage biodiversity net gain units over the next 30 years to fulfil biodiversity obligations for future developments. This was an excellent piece of work from SKDC's sustainability and climate change teams, along with officers from neighbouring councils who visited to explore potential for their own needs. I think this is a fantastic dovetailing of the public sector and the private sector working together. It aligns perfectly with the goals of our corporate plan, and as a Green, I'm seeing wonderful projects, already seeing more bugs than I'd seen in weeks. At this site, I saw 5 different species of birds hunting. It's an absolutely fantastic place to go, and it refills your soul. So if anybody would like to join me on a site visit to this wonderful company, please let me know. I'd be happy to take you along. It is an outstanding place, and well done to everybody involved. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just 2 small announcements to make. First of all, with my emergency planning hat on, members would have received alerts about flooding because of the recent rain. It seemed appropriate, therefore, for me to commit. I will write to all members tomorrow to remind you of how to register to receive online flood warning texts and emails for your wards, and also to remind you of the details of all the county-wide emergency planning system arrangements. I think it's one of those things that is good. We don't have to get involved very often, so it's important that we do know what to do when the occasion arises. And my second announcement is on car parking. I am pleased to report that on Tuesday, Cabinet approved a pre-Christmas free parking scheme in our SKDC car parks. This will consist of 2 hours free parking in the short stay car parks and 3 hours free parking in the long stay car parks, and will operate on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays in December up to Christmas Eve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We are now... Oh, the Chief Exec, Captain Bradford, would like to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Not to prolong this matter much further, but I'd personally like to thank all members for their support and kindness over the last 2.5 months. Really has supported my recovery, but to let all members know I am back now. I am back in the hot seat. But thank you so much for all your kindness and warmth over the last 2.5 months. Just another note on devolution. I did send a note out to you all, giving you a bit of an update, and attached the press release that came out from Lincolnshire County Council. The government have announce that the Greater Lincolnshire devolution deal is now being supported. Statutory instrument is expected to go through Parliament in November. Therefore, at the Council meeting in November, we'll be looking to consider the appropriate reports on Memorandum of Understanding and the appropriate joint committee, how the District Council will therefore support the mayoral combined authority. So quite a critical meeting, that one. And of course, with us moving forward and the statutory instrument being placed before Parliament, this is therefore anticipated that there will be mayoral elections will take place for Greater Lincolnshire in May 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and again, good to have you back. I am now going to move on to agenda item 6, proposed amendments to the Council's Constitution. Have a quick breath. We've had a lot of listening to do for the last 10 minutes. Welcome to those councillors who've managed to get through the traffic jams. Good to see you all. Now, this report provides full council with an opportunity to consider a recommendation from the Governance and Audit Committee to make amendments to the council's constitution. I understand this is yours, Councillor Knowles.
Thank you very much, Chair. There are 3 proposed amendments to the council's constitution. Each of these changes gives chances to increase the involvement of members and members of the public to the Cabinet and to the Council by offering them more opportunities to ask questions at the appropriate times. As I said, there are 3 proposals. The first one is to provide a public open forum at meetings of Cabinet. Just like we have a public open forum at meetings of this Council, the same facility will be in the Constitution for Cabinets in future. The second one is for members at questions at Cabinet. Those who have attended Cabinet will see that the leader has been requesting for questions for any member that was present, but it wasn't in the Constitution that he must do so. The Constitution will be changed to make sure that he now becomes part of the agenda at Cabinet for members to be allowed to ask questions. So it becomes a right rather than a privilege. And the third thing is for member questions at the annual meeting. In the past, there have been occasions when the members have been denied the opportunity to have a members' question session during the annual general meeting. This year we did invite members to ask questions, but once again we're actually going to put it in the Constitution so that at future annual general meetings there will be an opportunity for members to ask questions. All 3 of these seeks to improve and increase engagement with members and with the public. We're not frightened at all of scrutiny, and we welcome it, and we welcome trying to be transparent in responding to it. The rules of engagement for these question times, if you like, are similar to the ones that we already have, for instance, of the Council. So they're printed on your agenda sheet as well, and I commend the changes to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for this proposal, please? Councillor Baxter. Do you wish to speak, Councillor?
No, thank you.
In that case, we can move to debate, or if there is none, to the vote. I've got Councillor Shorrock, then Councillor Jewell. Councillor Shorrock.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a very good move. It's what's needed. There is no doubt about that. A technical problem, I think, is about power, right, and who uses that power. So if you actually look at the amendment which is being proposed, there's essentially a conflict between 9.2 and 9.4. So 9.2 basically says there should be supplementary questions. 9.4 basically says it's up to the leader to decide how many supplementary questions there should be. And I think to avoid any kind of conflict around that, it would be useful to specify as part of the amendment how many supplementary questions somebody is entitled to. Otherwise, that is going to become a problem, when people are wanting to ask more questions, and the leader who's being asked the questions is turning around and saying, I don't have to answer any more supplementary questions, they're all over. So it would be useful, I think, if we kind of specify that really clearly, yeah, within the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gill.
Yeah, thank you. On the amendments to the Constitution, yes, I certainly also welcome the added openness that this is going to provide. And, of course, the way the administration has engaged on this issue. I've had conversations with the leader and his predecessor, actually, Councillor Kesteven, on this, over a significant period of time. And I'd also like to credit the work done by Councillor Whittington on his Constitution review at the end of last term, where he oversaw a full review of the Constitution. And as I say, I welcome the fact that the administration have brought this forward, and so we will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we're getting a little bit of interference from over in the far left corner, which we'll try and sort out. It seems to have gone now. Councillor Moran, did you wish to speak?
Yes, please, Chair. It's just to address Councillor Shorrock's concerns. I think putting an end point on how many supplementary questions isn't really a good idea, because it could stifle conversation. And I think the idea is that we welcome supplementary questions because it depends what the topic is. The answer to the original question may bring up other matters that we're happy to discuss. Obviously, it's not going to be open-ended. We're not going to sit there all day asking loads of questions, but to say, oh, it's limited to one, or it's limited to two, is not what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to have conversations with people. So I think leaving it open-ended would be a better choice, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask you to sum up, Councillor Knowles? I don't think anyone else wishes to speak in the debate.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a question on the limit of questions and the possibility to do that. In any meeting, the Chair has the responsibility of managing the meeting, and as it is stated in the rules for Chair, their decision is final, and they have the ability to say this has gone on far enough and we don't want any more questions because I believe the matter has been covered adequately. And similarly with in 9.2, it is the leader that performed that function. I don't think there's any contradiction between 9.2 and 9.4, but if that proves to be the case over a period of time, we will review it. We're not quite happy to review it, but I don't think there's a contradiction at the moment. Having said that, I ask you to support the motion. Thank you.
Can we go to the vote, please, ladies and gentlemen? Can I ask for those in favour of the proposed amendment to the Constitution to raise your hands? Thank you. And against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 7, which is members' open questions. Members may ask one question only with no preamble or supplementary, which may be addressed by one of the following: the leader, cabinet members, the chairman, the vice chairman of overview scrutiny committees and the opposition group leaders. Any councillor wishing to ask a question during this item must be present in the council chamber. There is currently no provision within the Constitution to submit a question to be heard in your absence. The session may last up to 45 minutes. Please join the queue to speak by pressing the button on your microphone. I will call members out in the order in which they appear on my list. I expect you to put your question straight away. If you do not, I will direct you to move to your question. If after being instructed you do not move straight to your question, your microphone will be turned off and I will move to the next person in the queue. There's no right to reply to making of statements or entering into debate. I will now work through the list. Councillor Turner. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Cabinet Member Baker about the streetlight change in installations that we previously commissioned during this administration. I noticed that the streetlight bulbs were changed in my home village of Billingborough recently, and I wondered if he could give us an update on the further progress of the rollout of these streetlights, please.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Turner, for the question. This report is due to come before Councillor Selby's Environment Committee, I believe, next Monday, or the Monday after, very, very shortly, so full detail will be given then. It's really a fantastic acceleration of the progress that we have seen. We are currently up to 1,137 streetlights upgraded, a current completion rate of 51.5% of the Council's existing general fund stock. So we've got huge upgraded locations across the district. We've got Ancaster, we've got Horblin, we've got Uffington, we've got Marston, Morton, a huge number in there. Where you see any streetlights that are being missed on the rounds, members, if you can please just send me a quick email. There is a slight caveat into the order in which we do these. We're not just sweeping across the district. We do have two sets of streetlights. We have our standard streetlights, which are modern, rather brutalist in construction. They're very easy to work with, but we are a beautiful place to live. We have a number of what are designated heritage streetlights, which are significantly more complex. They are being left till the end of the programme, so there may be some patches in your area with particularly attractive streetlights. They haven't been missed. They are at the very end of the programme. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chairman. Just like to say thank you to Councillor Baxter and all the people concerned in getting the result regards the leisure centre. My question is to Councillor Paul Stokes regarding play equipment. Nearly 200 residents have signed a petition requesting the reinstatement of swings at the Wild Witham play area at South Witham, owned by South Kesteven District Council. The swings were removed in February. Will you take this opportunity to confirm their replacement and listen to the 200 residents? Thank you.
Councillor Stokes.
Thank you very much for that question. You'll probably be aware that at a recent leisure and culture over-briefing, we approved a play strategy, and as part of that play strategy, that particular project was included in the plans for the future. So, yeah, watch this space. We've just recently put a bid in to the UK SPF, and that is one of the schemes that's going forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Councillor Moran. Would Councillor Moran please arrange a meeting with Helping Hands, a small community group in Grantham that deals with homeless people, and also I understand they've got outstanding invoices that SKDC haven't paid. At the moment I understand from correspondence that SKDC are not engaging with the group, and I think it's a detriment to the people of Grantham and the district if we don't engage with them and sort out the problems that exist. Thank you.
Councillor.
Right. Well, we have tried to engage with Helping Hands time after time after time. It's really difficult. The emails that we get in response from them are not helpful and not conducive to building any sort of relationship with them. It's a really difficult situation that I don't want to make worse by making anything public about this. All I will say is we have tried on numerous occasions to work with them, and they will not work with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is for Councillor Moran as Cabinet Member for Housing. How many additional traders have we added to our approved list since we decided we would expand that list some months ago in the hope of getting our voids repaired
rather more rapidly.
Councillor Moran.
Well, it's none at the moment because the framework, the local framework isn't in place yet. We're still working on that. We did have a meeting about the local framework within members of the Housing Committee. I think it was expanded to all councillors. I'm not sure whether you attended or not, but that's the position at the moment, is we don't have the local framework in place, but we are working on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. This is a question for Councillor Rayside. Councillor Baxter earlier touched on the winter fuel payments, but can you please clarify, now we're in the public domain, what support SKDC is planning to offer pensioners affected by the government's change? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Just to let everyone know, I've sent an email to all members. I'm sure we can agree that this isn't great news. We agree that this needs to be reviewed and various processes need to be put in place.
You speak into your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
And you're asked to look to the front as well.
Oh, okay.
Thank
no
you.
problem. Right. How much of what I've said have you heard? Or shall I start over? Or I'll start over. I've sent an email to all of the members regarding this winter fuel update. I'm sure we can all agree that this is not great news. We can agree that a process needs to be put in place. It needs to be reviewed because we can't have some who can afford to not have this fuel payment and support. If they don't need it, they shouldn't have it. But our pensioners shouldn't be the ones suffering. So an email has gone to all members, and should you have any further questions, feel free to email me.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chairman. Question to Councillor Dilks. The SKDC Local Plan Review Issues and Options Report from October 2020 refers to allocations for new housing. This report recommends a minimum of 50% of all new housing be allocated to Grantham. Under the proposed new allocations from the revised NPPF, SKDC's allocation of 678 would rise to 912 homes per annum. So the allocation for Grantham would reach a lofty 456 per annum. Add to this the existing housing developments in North Grantham, when the town's allocation reaches 616 new homes per year, a population growth of 25,000, reaching 70,000 people by 2044, as an increase of 55%. So building 616 new homes in Grantham per year will undoubtedly impact on the fast disappearing green open spaces and surrounding villages. The question is, should the update to the NPPF be carried forward in December, then will the Council consider a review of the 50% allocation for Grantham and revisit the public consultation about this percentage? Thank you.
Councillor Dilks.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I've got to say it is a bit premature because, as you know, as I reported to Cabinet on Tuesday, the new government elected a couple of months ago on a manifesto to significantly speed up house building delivery across the country, immediately launched the consultation that you mentioned and proposed changes, as you say, to the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF. And as you say, yes, the proposal currently is to increase the number of homes required to be delivered. In our case, the current standard method is 687, and the suggestion is to increase it to 912 a year. As members will know, this Council's work to update our current local plan is at an advanced stage, and until the final NPPF is published, it's fair to say almost everything has changed, but nothing has changed because we haven't got the final details, quite understandably. The government consultation actually ended on Tuesday of this week, and I would like to take the opportunity of paying tribute to our Assistant Director, of Planning, Emma Whittaker, and our Planning Policy Manager, Shazza Brannan, and in fact the whole planning team, for working on our final response, which I signed off on Tuesday and went in before the deadline. And I can tell you it was a comprehensive 20-page response to that government consultation, which will now be considered, I'm sure, by government, along with many, many other detailed and comprehensive responses, and we look forward to their publication of the final MPPF as early as possible, hopefully, as you say, Christmas time or early in the new year. Regarding, you're right, at the moment the 50% of the houses in the current local plan are allocated to or hope to be built in Grantham. Grantham was identified, as a growth area. I can't remember the term. Emma might help me out, but it was a growth town anyway. In our area. But I'm sure we will look at all those points when we get to know the publication of the final MPPF and what the requirements are. I've got to say, as you will also know, both major parties were committed in their manifesto to speeding up house building, and it became a bit of a Dutch auction as to who was going to bid for the most houses. With all of it, I've got to say, it is a huge challenge, whoever is in government, to deliver anything like the number of houses that have been promised, given the hold-ups that we see in planning, quite rightly consultations that have to go on, to get public support, hopefully, for those decisions. But I'm happy to sort of talk to you outside the meeting further, and anybody else, if I can be of help. I've probably said enough there, but thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cunnington.
Thanks, Chairman. My question is to Paul Stokes, Councillor Paul Stokes. Following the successful completion works of the Bourne Leisure Centre roofs and the installation of the new roof lights, have there had any public feedback on the improvement in natural light, etc.? I only ask, it's my bag, it's what I do, so I'm just interested. Thanks.
Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Councillor Cunnington. I think the Bourne project in particular is an example of a property team working together with an operational team in first-class way. There was £800,000 worth of work there, and there was very, very little interruption. So the two teams worked very, very well together, and the answer to your question in short is yes, there's been significant feedback from the customers. I think Leisure SK should take credit for the way that they've managed that particular situation, and so should the property team. The customers are very happy with the outcome, and yes, it has provided a perfect solution, really.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shorrock.
Thank you, Chair. A question to the Leader of the Council. In your report to Council just now, you spoke about having written a letter in relation to winter fuel payments. So my question is that letter does that letter precede a motion that's going to come down which will set policy on winter fuel payments? And what authority are you basing your writing of that letter on in advance of a policy debate?
Councillor Baxter.
The letter is to the Chancellor. It concerns a review of winter fuel payments. It requests an urgent review of the decision that has been made. I'm happy to share the letter with anybody. Probably better to share the final version. Sorry, you're asking on what authority? I am the Leader of the Council, and I can write to people on behalf of the Council, as long as I have the confidence that I am representing the Council, the general view of the Council. I haven't made any comments about the decision to abolish winter fuel payments, universal winter fuel payments. I've asked for a review of the way that the scheme is being implemented. I didn't send it before this meeting because I know there is a motion coming forward later on, but my hope is that by showing the council that I'm willing to write the letter, we would have a less lengthy debate. I think that everyone in the room supports pensioners, and no one in the room wants to see pensioners suffer through the winter through lack of finance or lack of fuel. I hope that we can all agree that, and you know that there is a lot of consternation around the country about the way in which the policy has been proposed, with the gateway benefit being pension credit to access the winter fuel allowance, and if it is the mood of the council that be reviewed, and I think it probably is, then I'm happy to send the letter.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Councillor Rees-Baker in his role as Cabinet Holder for the Environment. Councillor Baker, I recently contacted you about a grounds maintenance contract which has had issues ongoing for months now due to internal bureaucracy. Can you offer us some reassurance that this matter is now in hand and we will see a resolution imminently, please?
Councillor Baker.
Oh, I'm already on. That's clever. Thank you very much for the question. Absolutely. Any sort of grounds maintenance issues should be rectified as quickly as possible. There are always difficulties when you are in and around ownership issues, access issues, scheduling issues, and the general schedule and availability of our teams. I will seek an update immediately, and I will provide you a further update based on that as soon as I have it, but definitely by the end of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. My question also is for the Deputy Leader. Sorry, Paul. Could you give me, as it's in my ward, could you give me any update on the attendance figures for Guildhall Arts, please? Thank you.
Councillor Stokes.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Who can't love our arts centres? And I include Bourne Corn Exchange. They are absolutely wonderful. I hope everybody in the room has visited some of the shows that we have on offer, and the teams are working incredibly hard at those venues, quite at the present time, really, really hard. It's been a difficult time post-COVID, and there is no doubt that has taken some while to bring. But I can tell you that figures at the Guildhall Arts Centre are on the increase. Over the last 2 years, previous 2 years, September to September, we had something like 11,000 visitors to the shows at the Guildhall. In this last 12 months, from September to September, there were 19,000 visitors, which is a significant 8,000 improvement. And obviously that says something about the shows that are being put on there. It also says something about the way the team are working so well together. Just as a by-the-by, so that people don't say, because I have regular conferences with the team, I can say that the figure at Stamford Arts Centre from 37,000 have gone up to 39,500. And so that nobody says, what about Bourne? I can say that the Bourne figures are improving dramatically, and that the current introduction of the website at Bourne has already led to enquiries from outside organisations for us to sell tickets to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leadenham.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is for Councillor Moran. Earlier on this year, we had an update about the Deep Ins Leisure Centre. And part of that update was the business plan, which stated that the Deepings Leisure Centre was going to be open in August of this year. Can we have an update on what the situation is with the Deeping Leisure Centre moving forward? Thank you.
Chief Exec would like to come in. Thank you.
Just for clarity, I don't think Councillor Moran was in her capacity as a councillor when that particular issue was presented to this council, but I don't know whether the leader wants to make a response. Thank you.
Councillor Baxter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. Very reasonable question, but unreasonable to ask Councillor Moran because she's got a different hat on. She's not responsible for leisure at SKDC, despite what she does in her spare time. Councillor Stokes, either Councillor Stokes or myself would be the person who asks the question. Councillor Stokes being responsible for leisure provision in the district, and me being the leader and the portfolio holder for economic development. I'm not going to say anything I think that will make any difference, but I'll give way to Councillor Moran if she's...
I'm completely prepared to accept an answer from either Councillors Moran, Stokes or Baxter to the question.
I'm about to give an answer.
Thank you, Councillor. Off you go.
Councillor Moran in a difficult position. Okay, all right, yeah. Councillor Moran has just indicated to me that after the meeting she's happy to speak to you with any of the hats that she wears in her spare time and talk to you about the Deepings Leisure Centre or anything else, but she's not prepared to do that sort of thing in this chamber. So I can report that, as you know, this council has put aside £850,000, the county have put aside a similar amount, and a bid has gone into the Community Ownership Fund. The Community Ownership Fund was making some progress with the remainder of the money that was required, but then a general election was called, which caused inconvenience for many people, including those who were applicants to the community. Yeah.
Order, please. We've got about 20 minutes left of open questions. I've got about 5 councillors who wish to ask questions. I'd like to get through them all. Would you like to bring your answer to a conclusion, Councillor Baxter?
Well, a bit of way to go yet. So the Community Ownership Fund issues were delayed by the general election, and the new government has not yet expressed an opinion on what will happen to that funding or that fund or those applications. We expect that the autumn statement might shed some light on the direction of travel, but even then we will have to wait for the Community Ownership Fund to say whether or not the community group, of which Councillor Moran is involved, will be a beneficiary or recipient. Meanwhile, discussions go on between the community group and the county, community group and the district, community group and other potential funders, community group and leisure providers, and when the funding, if and when the funding is secured from the Community Ownership Fund or anywhere else, we still have to get over the hurdle of the building, the ownership of the building, which is tangled up with the Academies Act and the future of the Deeping School and so on. So, yeah, it's still on life support. There's no intention to demolish this season. Certainly, the community group and others are keen that essential repairs are undertaken to make sure that it doesn't get any worse over the winter, but watch this space. Thank you.
Thank you for a very fulsome answer, Councillor. I've now got Councillor Kelly.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to ask a question of the Cabinet Member for housing, please. Sorry, for planning. I didn't realise that you'd written your submission on the consultation to the government about the NPFF, and I just wondered if in your submission you made any specific comments about almshouses, because almshouses are undergoing a bit of a difficult time at the moment. They are being bunched in with a group that is affordable housing and with those who are registered providers of housing. And almshouses are very different to that, and the type of red tape that is going into the providers of affordable housing is very much not the sort of red tape that people who in their voluntary time give up so much to help with almshouses. So the Almshouses Association are making a particular plea that when local councils make submissions to the government about the new planning regulations, please could you look at almshouses as a specific category with its own differences from all those other groups. And if you have another time when you are offered an opportunity to consult, please can we talk about making sure almshouses are a very special group and get very special consideration. Please.
I think that was a question for you, Councillor Dukes, was it?
I think so, Mr. Chairman, yeah. Thank you for the question. I don't actually recall any specific reference to almshouses in the 20-page response that went back, which was mainly, I have to say, answering questions that the government consultation specifically asked. So it wasn't asking us about almshouses, but I'm very happy to look at the what you've said and meet with you, and I'm sure our housing director would meet you with you as well, so that we can talk through and consider what you've said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure we all agree that there are many pensioners in Bourne who are particularly cold at the moment, and I'm sure you know why.
I beg your pardon, Councillor, I was looking at my notes.
Sorry, the question is to Councillor Paul Stokes.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry not to have said that. But as we all agree, Bourne is known for its particularly cold pensioners. We all know that, don't we? And there's one happy solution to this, which is swimming in the pool against the shortly to be repaired wave machine. When will this be done? Because the warm glow generated internally for those pensioners will make up for this much missed winter fuel allowance. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Stokes, I believe it's about the wave machine.
Well, of course, one of the most healthy things they could do is go open water swimming at the outdoor pool throughout the summer. But as far as I'm aware, the wave machine had been repaired, but I would stand corrected by a thing. But as far
apparently
as
it has, Councillor.
It's been repaired. Well, that's excellent. And so you haven't been, you clearly haven't. So have a visit and have a look and pay a membership.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. This is also to Councillor Stokes with his leisure hat on. You're getting all the questions today. As he will be aware, one of the big advantages of combined mayoral authority is going to be access to funds that we currently can't access because of various demographic factors. Will you be preparing a submission, particularly with regards to strategic leisure provision, particularly with a backup plan for swimming in the deepings, perhaps?
Councillor Stokes.
Thank you. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Let's hope that when the mayoral elections take place, we get recognised down in the southern end. But we'll see how that transpires. I would have thought that, I'm certainly not doing it at the minute, but my view is that we would be prepared to look at any opportunity that is there for us, which we've done with the decarbonisation fund and the swimming pool grants. So if there are grants available and opportunities available, the answer to me is we need to be there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gill.
Okay, a light-hearted question to end with then. My question is to Councillor Lee Steptoe, who is Chair of Housing, but also in his capacity as leader of the Labour Party. So in light of the Prime Minister's proclamation about sausages this week, would Councillor Steptoe like to join me in sending the Prime Minister, his leader, a gift of one of our county's finest export of Lincolnshire sausages? We will, of course, have to attach a note reminding the Prime Minister to declare this gift, and I hope that he can remind him to make all of his declarations. Thank you, Councillor Steptoe.
Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I remember not so long ago departed Conservative PM talking about Peppa Pig. and that's one of many examples. I wouldn't bother sending a sausage Councillor Gill because, like myself, I'm sure the Prime Minister sees the current Tory party as utterly irrelevant.
Thank you, Councillor. That ends our open questions. I don't believe I have any other further questions. So I am now going to pass on to agenda item 8. Could you have a look at it on your papers? This motion by Councillor Ben Green will be deferred to the next meeting of the Council as he is not in attendance. This is in line with Council Procedure Rules of the Constitution 13.4. I hope you're impressed that I have that in front of me. Thank you for Graham for telling me. So, we are now going to pass on to agenda item 8B, which is one from Councillor Gill. I need to hand over to the monitoring officer for some advice on declarations, but we've done that, so I don't need to do that. So I could now pass on to you, Councillor Gill, to present your motion, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm delighted to learn that Councillor Baxter is so keen on this motion that he's already pre-prepared a letter, and so therefore I, like him, hope that this will be a short debate. And the question I thought was very interesting earlier on. It sounds like we do need to give this some authority. The eagle-eyed...
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor. Can you make sure your mobile phones are switched over in that corner? Is it anything happening? Is it that corner? If you can just give us 2 seconds, Councillor, we'll try and get rid of the buzz.
Okay, well, we can carry on.
Would you like to try Councillor Milne's microphone? Would that work?
I think it's fine now.
Yeah. Carry on, Councillor Gill. We can do nothing else.
Okay, I'll carry on. Well, first of all, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that this motion has gone before over 80 different councils in the last few weeks and scheduled over the next few weeks. It's a motion that our colleagues at the Liberal Democrats have proposed in other councils, and I believe Greens have also spoke of this motion to this motion, highlighting the speed and the lack of consultation associated with this policy. And I'm pleased at the coordination between the Conservatives and particularly the Liberal Democrats on this issue, who have, some say we might be reliving the days of the Cameron-Clegg coalition, but this is a point of having united opposition. I would like to commend our local members of Parliament as well, Gareth Davis and Alicia Kearns, who have led the opposition within Parliament to withdrawing the winter fuel allowance from over 10 million pensioners. That's 29,882 in South Kesteven alone. Look, I want to be clear. Nobody says that the winter fuel allowance isn't in need of reform. There are the Conservative manifesto commented on the need of reform, and there are options and ideas that could go out to consultation, perhaps measures around tapering, testing for means testing for well-off pensioners, but to remove it from everyone in such a short time span with so little consultation feels wrong. Now, I'm sure you're expecting me to make jokes about the government, about a government of self-service or other comments that have made, or this government needing to find money for train drivers who have to suffer on just £65,000 a year. But I think this is actually a very serious issue. Alicia Kearns, the MP for Rutland and Stamford, did comment in Parliament that the Conservatives suggested giving an exemption for the terminally ill and those suffering with cancer. This was rejected by the Labour Party, which to me feels cruel. Therefore, I believe it's our duty to represent the constituents we have of pensionable age in expressing our concerns on this. I would like to call on Councillor Besnoutsing to second this motion, and also again pay tribute to the work that has been done cross-party to highlight to the general public the cruelty of this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I understand from that last comment that you're seconding this motion. Councillor Bishnow Singh.
I am, Mr. Chairman, and I'm very happy to second it. You know, as has been already said, throughout the country, the Liberal Democrat Party supports that. I think this is a ill-thought proposal that was put forward by this government. Winter is approaching, and this new government seems fit to punish the most vulnerable in our society. This policy will deprive our senior citizens and our most vulnerable people in where they are needed most, when they need the most help this time. So I have got no problem at all in supporting this, and I recommend that everybody do support this, and I hope in the end that our council, as our leader has already drafted a letter, that in that letter there is a strong support for our pensioners, that this payment is finally restored to the people that deserves it most.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kelly, I have you next on my screen, but I'm aware of the fact that you were there and didn't seem to have been removed from the last. Do you wish to speak? You don't? At this point, thank you, Councillor Kelly. I have Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing forward this motion. It is such an important subject. One of the key things I think as well, obviously there's grave concern over the actual policy, but there's also an issue around the implementation, because one of the key fallbacks that the government's leaning on is that people who haven't claimed pension credit will now do so. But all the signs are that there's actually, and has been for a long time, a massive backlog in the handling of pension credit applications, which is hugely worrying when we consider we're now approaching winter and people could be waiting weeks, even months, to actually have their applications dealt with. I know it's part of our plan as a local authority to encourage people to get their applications in, and I can only reiterate that. But as I said, it just shows this just general lack of foresight or true depth of thought has gone into this policy. I totally support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one from me. I think everybody in this chamber is behind this. It's a bit of a no-brainer on this one. The letter's already been written. So could I suggest that we go straight to the vote? Thank you.
I've got a feeling that we have councillors who wish to speak, but I'm just going to take advice on that. Do I have to vote on that proposal? I am going to take a few more speakers before I go to the vote, if that's all right, Councillor Harrison, particularly as there are alternative opinions and I need to give councillors the right to express those. So can I go, please, to Councillor Steptoe?
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to respond, Mr. Chair, genuinely. Now, this motion is nakedly political. So, and I don't blame Councillor Gill for moving it, but it is nakedly political. So I will apologise that I'm going to respond in a political manner. And I know that that will upset some members who think that politics should stay out of local government, etc., who get a little bit squeamish when politics is discussed in this chamber. But this is a political motion about national politics and national policy. So that's the way I will be responding, with the greatest of respect to the Conservative opposition and anybody else that doesn't agree with me, as always. I do find it rather ironic. This must be the first time that Councillor Gill and his group will have been on the same side as a Labour conference. They've gone all socialist. They've gone all, to use their words, hard left. You've got to admire the chutzpah of this motion. A party that cut 80 billion from public spending between 2010 and 2015, including a minimum of a 40% cut in the funding to local government, explaining a huge factor in why so many councils have struggled since the austerity years of 2010 onwards. Introduced a bedroom tax that was applied to all council tenants, including disabled tenants, and a government that brought the NHS virtually to its knees. And what a surprise that the Liberal Democrats, sorry guys, but you enabled that to happen between 2010 to 2015. Well done. Congratulations. Never, you know, don't talk to me about a progressive alliance. Okay? I'll leave that one there. Then during the last Parliament, 2019 to 24, Councillor Gill's party left a £22 billion gap between the committed national spending and actual resources in the run-up to the July general election. They salted the earth to sabotage what they knew to be an incoming Labour government. That's what is meant by that 22 billion black hole. That is the Labour Party's, that is the Labour government's inheritance. And it's that absolute incompetent mess that this new government is trying to clean up. And that's going to involve very regrettable, very difficult decisions, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, I realise that Councillor Gill is probably desperate to keep non-means tested winter fuel allowance for the 28% of pensioners who are millionaires, asset millionaires at the very least. 28%. I'm sure that in his dotage he's very keen for that state handout to help warm his mansion. But seriously, there are millions of pensioners that simply do not need the £200 or £300 a year winter fuel allowance. They spend it on treats, they spend it on Christmas presents, they spend it on holidays. I've spoken to many who have readily admitted to doing that, including my own father. However, of course, I want it put on absolute record that I fully accept that millions of pensioners do need it. Millions of pensioners will suffer because of this decision.
30 seconds,
and it's those pensioners that I care about. As regards the specifics of the motion, of course we support raising awareness around claiming pension credit. The fact remains that British state pensions are amongst the lowest in Western Europe. This is pure symbolism. You can write to who you want. This will change nothing. Parliament is sovereign.
Please sum up, Councillor, your time.
10 seconds, thank you, Mr. Chair. So those with the broadest shoulders will be asked to pay a little more at the forthcoming budget. I hope that Councillor Gill, in particular, will reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm now just going to take one more contribution from Councillor Baxter because I think it's appropriate, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Gill to sum up, and then we will be going to the vote. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with a lot of what Councillor Steptoe says, especially the last comment, that this will change absolutely nothing. As I said at the start of the meeting, quite happy to write a letter to the Chancellor to say a review. I'm sure that she's hanging on my every word, and it will be my letter and a pile of letters from 80 other councils. That might be the thing that makes her change the way she implements the policy. My favourite outcome for this would be for the motion to be withdrawn. We've had a bit of I think you mentioned earlier on that the late councillor didn't like political pontificating. So, I mean, this sums up political pontificating, doesn't it? The second and third paragraphs I have no problem with at all. I can write a letter to Rachel Reeves quite happily, and we are already as Councillor Rayside has emailed you all, we are already taking steps to ensure that pensioners do not go through hardship as a result of this, where we as a district council are able to stop it. And we will use social media, promotion in the press and media partners and so on. So paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 we are already doing. It's paragraph 1 that I find problematic because it says that we regret the decision to end the universal winter fuel payments. And as you said in your proposal, Councillor Gill, that universal winter fuel payment is in need of reform. It should have been reformed. And having a benefit that in these times of austerity that we've been told about these last 14 years, in these times of austerity, is it really appropriate to be giving winter fuel payments to millionaires? I don't think it is. I never have thought it is. So I cannot agree with the first paragraph, and therefore I will abstain.
Assuming you do wish to continue with your motion and not take up Councillor Baxter's suggestion, Councillor Gill, can I ask you to sum up, please?
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. I welcome Councillor Morgan's comments. I think they were. I know this is an issue she takes particular care in. A couple of comments I'm just going to pick up on. The whole idea that this changes nothing. There are 80 councils, more than 80 councils coordinating on a very similar motion. So it's numbers here, and not just Conservative councils, Lib Dem councils, Green councils. That this is a countrywide movement to say to the government, reform yes, but this probably goes too far. I do want to pick up Councillor Steptoe where he misquoted me, as I say, we do envisage reform. However, I think reform needs to be used with baby steps here. We're voting today about taking away the decision to take away the winter fuel allowance from basically everyone, including cancer sufferers and the terminally ill, as I said before. That strikes me as too far. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go through the
point of order, please. Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what Councillor Gill says I've misquoted him on. Well, that's not the basis of my point of order. He's just said that it's being taken off everybody. No, it is not. It is not being taken off pensioners that claim pension credit, and there is a government and SKDC social media campaign that will run until Christmas to get as many pensioners as possible to sign up for pension credit. So what Councillor Gill has just said is factually incorrect.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gill, would you like to either answer that point or carry on and not?
No, do I carry on? I mean, we've talked. I welcome Councillor Steptoe's preamble about being nakedly political. I suggest we just stop there and go to the vote. And on this one, I think I'd like to call for a recorded vote. So do we have 10 people to stand up for a recorded vote?
Councillor Shorrock.
Motion. So I'd like to move the procedural motion that the question, that the motion is withdrawn by the original proposer, or I'd like to move that because I can't move that one because it's already been seconded. That is a slight problem. I can't move it. Sorry.
That's all right. So what we have is a request for a recorded vote. If you want a recorded vote, could you please... A point of order, Councillor Sawyer.
I must apologise if I've missed the answer to this one, which is always likely. Looking around the chamber...
Is it a point of order, Councillor, or are you making a statement?
Given that at least some of us here have a financial interest in the outcome of this...
we have actually dealt with that, Councillor Sawyer, before you arrived at the chamber.
Could you, because of that, could you just repeat the answer?
I will ask Graham to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the advice earlier was that I don't believe any councillor is required to declare an interest in this item, so you can fully participate and vote in this item. It's something that's a national policy. It's nothing that we can in particularly influence. So that's my advice. Thank you, Chairman.
Is it a point of order, Councillor Morgan? And your point of order is?
Thank you. I'd just like to make the point that Councillor Steptoe quite rightly questioned an accuracy in the actual motion. The very first line saying that the government is ending universal interpayments. Well, he's stated that is incorrect, and it is an incorrect statement. So should we be voting on a motion that is actually inaccurate? I'm just thinking that should
Interesting, Councillor. I'm just going to take a bit of advice on that one.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion is before you. It's up to you as councillors which way you cast your vote in relation to the motion that is open for debate. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gill.
Just to address that, the key word there's universal. So it's universal payments have been withdrawn. They have been moved down to, I think, everybody on £13,000 or around £13,000 and below. But the universal is the key point. I'm not going to go into the detail of the reform, etc. I suggest we move to the vote. Thank you.
I am going to rule to the fact we are going to go to the vote because I think we've got as much out of this as we can. People have had an opportunity to state their points of view. What we need to do now is determine whether or not it's going to be a recorded vote. To do that, I need a certain number of councillors to stand up. So if you wish for a recorded vote, could you stand up? I think that does it. Thank you. Could you sit down? We will go to recorded vote, and I will ask Graham and Karen to organise that for us.
Thank you, Chairman. So I will call out names of councillors in alphabetical order. If you could indicate whether you are for, against or abstaining from the motion, please.
Can we cease private conversations, please, councillors? I thank you.
So, Councillor Emma Baker. Councillor Rhys Baker. Councillor Baxter. Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Bismouth Singh. Councillor Bosworth. Councillor Bird. Councillor Cleaver. Councillor Cunnington. Councillor Denniston. Councillor Dilks. Councillor Dixon Warren. Councillor Dobson. Councillor Fellows.
Abstain.
Councillor Gadd. Councillor Harrison. Councillor Gill. Councillor Johnson's not here, is she? Councillor Kelly. Councillor Knight. Councillor Lane. Councillor Leadenham. Councillor Lay. Councillor Mansfield. Not here. Councillor Martin. Councillor Milnes. Councillor Moran. Councillor Morgan. Councillor Rayside. Councillor Robbins, Nick Robbins. Councillor Penny Robbins. Councillor Sandal. Councillor Sawyer. Councillor Selby. Councillor Shorrock. Councillor Smith. Councillor Stevens. Councillor Steptoe. Councillor Paul Stokes. Councillor Stooke. Councillor Trotter is not here. Councillor Trotter. Councillor Turner. Councillor Jane Wood. Councillor Paul Wood. Councillor Woolley.
We beg your pardon, Councillor.
Councillor Charlotte Bellew. Thank you. Can I just check out every councillor has been asked which way they wish to cast their vote? Yes.
Yes, please. You do. The results from Graham.
Thank you, Chairman. So I can confirm that there were 30 votes in favour, 6 against and 8 abstentions. Thank you, Chairman.
The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. And apologies to you, Councillor Trollope-Ballou. You're right in front of my eyes, I can see you. We are now going to proceed to the final motion of the day, which is motion 8C from Councillor Lane. Before we begin this motion, and I ask Councillor Lane to present it, I cannot imagine that there is not a person sitting in this room that does not totally agree with the sentiments and what Councillor Lane is saying in this motion. My only worries and concern is, and again, you'll all understand this quite well, coming from someone who can get very verbose and use his mouth before he uses his brain, can I actually ask you to consider when you join in the debate what you say and how you say it? Can I also ask you to be sensitive in that way? There are also members of the council who may wish to absent themselves from this debate altogether, and obviously if you wish to do that, please be free to leave. But again, can I ask you for sensitivity? I know you will be discussing in depth something that really we don't totally know that much about, whilst at the same time being very, very willing and wanting to give support to such an emotional and important topic. Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, sorry, Councillor Lane. Councillor Baxter, what's the...
I'm sorry. The motion is set out on the agenda. Is that the current... is that the motion that's being put forward, or is it being has it been amended?
Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I will be moving an amendment within my speech and asking Council to accept that in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Off you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, I'd like to apologise to my fellow councillors for bringing such a heavy subject to our first full council after a restful summer. As some of you are already aware, I lost a friend to suicide over the summer at the end of July, just a week before my 30th birthday. So this issue has become far closer to home than I ever thought or feared it could. In my quest for closure over the last couple of months, I've learned a lot about suicide. One of the most startling facts I've come across is that fewer than a third of those who end their own life have been previously known to mental health services. I've been surprised to discover how responsive Google can be. If your search mentions suicide, it will give you the number for the Samaritans as the top result. We often curse the intuition and intrusion of the internet, but it can serve as a force for good. However, I learned quite quickly through my searching that my friend's death was a typical case in so many ways, and it breaks my heart to see a tragedy become a statistic. It has also set me on a path of wanting to do something to spare the loved ones of other people pain beyond words. According to the statistics, a death by suicide affects approximately 135 people. On South Kesteven's average rate of 14 deaths per year, this means that more than 10% of our population have likely been touched by a tragic death in the last decade. However, I would suggest that averages and statistics do not show the bigger picture. I've been to countless church services over the years, be they remembrance or civic services or the occasional wedding. I have never seen a church so full as it is for the funeral of a young man. While suicide awareness and prevention falls under the jurisdiction of Lincolnshire County Council, campaign groups and charities could not be clearer that no suicide is inevitable and that everyone has a part to play in saving lives. I am grateful to councillors and officers at LCC, and both for all of the hard work that goes into the strategic levels of suicide prevention and awareness, and for their support in creating the motion here before you today. I'd like to reiterate that this motion is designed to complement the county-wide strategy rather than compete with it. It is also an extension of what our own officers already do, in that they undertake awareness training as part of their role. I do have one small confession to make. I have not costed the plan. However, the training I am suggesting is completely free of charge, and the only expenses incurred will be in officer time. I hope everyone here can agree that it will be worth every penny if it means that someone who otherwise wouldn't will get help before they ever reach their darkest hour. I will take the motion as read, but to summarise, my proposal is that we as councillors should understand the signs that someone may be feeling suicidal on those rare occasions when those signs are present. We should encourage sensitivity in our communities when discussing someone who has or might have taken their own life, especially in online discussions. We should support each other to build our confidence as a council to talk about the issue of suicide. And we should understand what is happening in the district as a whole, as well as expectations around us as partners of the county strategy. There is one amendment I would like to bring with council's permission, and that is to change the first line of the motion from full council acknowledges that every suicide is preventable to say no suicide is inevitable. Since submitting the motion, I've had a conversation with a fellow councillor who has experience working within mental health, and they have explained to me what I understand to be issues around what is essentially survivor's guilt, where those around a suicide victim hold themselves responsible for that person's death. They are not. So, to borrow Councillor Milnes' favourite phrase, I'm seeking to remove unintended consequences from the motion by removing any implications of blame or fault. I would be grateful for your support today, and I look for a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor. I just need to take advice because you are actually changing the motion, and we need to make sure that we do that properly and considered. Is that okay? No, that is fine. So, Councillor Harrison, are you seconding this motion?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, most definitely second this motion. And in light of this sensitivity and the ease of which words can be misinterpreted and very subjective, I would like to suggest that councillors all consider going straight to the vote on this. Thank you.
I'm inclined to follow your inclination. I've only Councillor Baker who's got his name down. Are you happy for us to go to the vote, Councillor, or do you feel you need to speak? In that case, Councillor Morgan, have you got a point of order? If it's not a point of order, then, Councillor, I am going to go to the vote. Well, I'll take it as a point of order. Off you go, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. It was just to say that my first appointment as Ambassador for Grantham this year was to visit Samaritans in Grantham who are celebrating 50 years of work in our community, and their contact number is 116123 if anybody feels that they need help and support. Thank you.
An excellent point of order, Councillor. I'm sorry for trying to stop you from saying it. And just on the back of that, before I do go to the vote, as a district council, I know we do so much, as Councillor Lane pointed out. I know there's a lot of initiatives on board, and I'm sure we will do them and follow them as we can. We're now going to go... Oh, sorry, Zoe, do you want to conclude, or can I go straight to the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am perfectly happy for us to go straight to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Any against? Any abstentions? The motion is passed. Thank you, councillors. That, and I'm going to expect a cup of tea from my good friend Councillor Gill, that concludes the business for today's meeting. I would like to thank members and officers, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. But again, you have to wait until we've left. Sorry. Just before I go, don't cheer, there will be a demonstration of the voting buttons after this meeting if you wish to be involved in that demonstration. Thank you.